The UN PRI were founded 6 years ago. They're very aspirational. I think we have a great success so far, but now it's kind of, as I said, the honeymoon is over. So now we have to see what are we actually doing. How do we become a driver in the financial markets? For me, it's important that we become a global company. We still have areas in the world which we are not covered 100%. We have asset classes which we are currently not covering, so we need to have the whole investment universe. And we have to prove that our signatories are engaged and have an impact on major themes. They can be very explicit, like water, like investment in agriculture, but they can be also broad in, for instance, long-term sustainability of the market, long-term investment results, and driving out the short-term in the markets.
What would you consider a success in, let's say, 10 years?
In 10 years, that it has become mainstream, that in every part of the investment chain, ESG is a major driver of consideration, and that our signatories and we together had major impact on changing the way the world is behaving. It's very important. The vision from Kofi Annan was in saying the UN has the vision, we have a number of themes, and we need to link with the private sector, and how the private sector, and in this case, the private institutional investors, had an impact on changing really the generation issues.
What do you consider on the short term and the long term the drivers to implement the UN PRI?
If I look at the current signatory base, it's quite interesting. We have around 1,000 signatories. They are very diverse. So we have a number of signatories who are leading edge, who drive themes, who are engaging, and we want to really bundle behind them to have a major impact. But we have also a lot of people who kind of are just starting, and it's also important to help them and to offer them advice to really get started how to implement ESG in their think process and so on. So it's on the one side the leading edge, but really bringing all the signatories together and move them along as well.
Lord Minus had some criticism on the UN PRI. He said the biggest fault is there are no sanctions.
I heard about this and obviously I think our main sanctions is the reporting tool. So we have a mandatory reporting where every signatory has to report on a yearly basis what they are actually doing. We monitor this. If people are not reporting, they will be automatically delisted. But also if they're reporting but we find out that actually the reporting is insufficient, we will engage with them, and if it stays insufficient, we will also delist them. That's for us a tool where we can prove that the majority of our signatories are really moving ahead. We will report on this publicly, which we haven't done yet, and we will report individual companies about their results. So it will be very transparent, and that's actually the best tool.
What do you think, are there some countries who have more problems than other countries with the UN PRI? Is it accepted everywhere, or are there some really more problematic countries, so to say?
I would say, as I said, kind of at the moment we have areas where we are underrepresented. There are various issues. What's the reason for it? If I use, for instance, the example Germany, where Germany on ESG issues is normally quite advanced. On the investment side, Germany is lagging behind. The reason for it, we didn't really have a proper channel. We didn't have a German network. Partly it was a language issue. And there was the issue that people felt that shareholder activism, like in the Anglo-Saxon world. It's not, but we have to tell them and we have to kind of overcome this. In the United States, the label UN raises a negative flag. We are a private institution. We don't have to run through the UN. We work closely with the UN, but kind of a lot of kind of potential criticism about the UN doesn't apply to us. We have to be much more out there. Asia, again, I think it's a very important market. I see major developments in Asia, particularly also in China, but we have to be there. We need to, a visit once a year doesn't do it. We have to have local people on the ground and to engage. So that's mainly on us to deliver in these areas.
And last question, do you think implementing the UN PRI will have some problems with the big economic and financial crisis we have now?
I see it actually totally different. And why? Kind of, you would say, well, the economic and financial crisis could be, well, that's the nice to have, we should kind of give it up. If I look at it and I'm saying, well, what are the performance driver going forward? And I use it in very simple terms. One is, if you focus on ESG, you can avoid some disasters. So that's already kind of a very positive, that you get a red flag and you can avoid a disaster. Secondly, if you think about where is the economic growth coming from in the next decade, it's clearly coming from investment in infrastructure, renewable energy, alternative energy sources, and so on. So companies who are positioned there will outperform. And if people now in their research factor these components in, they will outperform as well.